I've been sitting here for a while now, just thinking, just sitting with this feeling. And I know a lot of you out there right now, at whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world, some of you are sitting with a feeling too. Maybe you're lying on your bed staring at the ceiling. Maybe you're walking alone somewhere, headphones in, pretending the music is loud enough to drown out the thoughts. Maybe you're scrolling through your phone at 2 in the morning, not because there's anything worth seeing, but because the silence feels too heavy without something to fill it. And I want to talk to you tonight, not as an actor, not as someone you've seen on a screen, just as a person, a human being who has felt things, who has lost things, who has loved things so deeply that losing them felt like losing a piece of the sky. I want to talk about heartbreak, real heartbreak, the kind that doesn't just hurt, it transforms you, the kind that reaches into your chest with both hands and rearranges everything inside you, and you're never quite the same person you were before it happened. I want to talk about missing someone. Not just any someone, but the someone. The one you looked at and thought, Vara, there she is. That's the person I'm going to spend my life with because I've been there. And if you're here watching this, I think maybe you've been there too. Let me tell you something about love. Real love, not the movie kind, not the kind with perfectly timed music swelling in the background and golden hour lighting and a script that makes sure everything works out by the third act. Real love. The kind that shows up in ordinary moments. The kind that lives in the way someone laughs at something that isn't even that funny, but the way they laugh with their whole body completely unguarded makes it the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. The kind that lives in the way they reach for your hand without even thinking about it. Like your hand is just a place their hand belongs. That kind of love is rare. And when you find it, you don't just feel lucky, you feel awake. Like you've been walking through your life in a kind of fog, and then suddenly, because of this one person, everything is in sharp focus. Colors are more vivid. Food tastes better. Music hits differently. You go to sleep at night actually looking forward to tomorrow, because tomorrow means you get to see her again. Tomorrow means another conversation, another laugh, another moment where she looks at you and you think, how did I get here? How did I get to be this man standing in front of this woman who makes the whole world make sense? That's the love I'm talking about. And I know some of you know exactly what I mean. You don't just know it in your head, you know it in your body, in your bones, because you felt it, you've had it. And then something happened. Life got complicated. Circumstances changed. Things were said or things weren't said that should have been. Distance crept in, sometimes physical distance, sometimes something harder to name and harder to close. And suddenly the person who made tomorrow something who to look forward to is no longer there when tomorrow comes. And you wake up and the first few seconds are okay because your brain hasn't fully loaded yet. And then it loads and you remember. And the weight of it just it lands on you every single morning. Like your heart has to relearn the loss each day, fresh, like it's happening for the first time again. That's missing someone. That's what it actually feels like. Two people will tell you all kinds of things when you're going through this. They mean well. They love you and they hate seeing you in pain. And so they reach for words the way you reach for anything when someone you care about is hurting desperately, hoping something will help. They'll say time heals everything. They'll say you'll find someone else. They'll say you deserve better, or everything happens for a reason, or just keep yourself busy. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you those people are wrong, because some of those things are true in their own way, in their own time. But I am going to tell you something that those phrases often miss, which is this: size your grief is not a problem to be solved. Your love is not a wound to be closed as quickly as possible. When you lose someone you truly loved, when you're standing in the wreckage of a future you had already built in your mind, a future with her in it, a future where you knew what your life was going to look like, that grief deserves to be felt, not performed, not rushed through like some inconvenient process you have to complete before you can get back to being productive and functional and okay. Felt, honored, sat with. Because here's what I've learned, and it took me a long time to learn this, and I'm still learning it. Grief is just love with nowhere to go. That's it. When you're missing her at 3 in the morning, when you hear a song that was yours and you have to pull over the car because you can't see through the tears, when you pick up your phone to text her something funny that happened and then remember you can't, that's not weakness. That's not you being broken. That's love. That's the love that was real, expressing itself the only way it can now that she's not there to receive it directly. You loved her. And that love didn't disappear just because she did. It's still in you. It still needs somewhere to go. And until you figure out where it goes, it's going to feel like this. Two, I want to say something to the person watching this who had a plan, who had a vision. You weren't just dating her. You were building something with her. You had talked about the future. Maybe you had talked about marriage. Maybe you had already thought about it so much in your own mind that she felt like your future wife even before you'd had that conversation officially. You knew. The way you sometimes just know. Not because someone told you, not because it checked all the boxes on some list, but because something deep and quiet and certain inside you recognized her. And now that future, that whole beautiful imagined life, it's just gone. And it's not just the person you're grieving. It's the future. It's the version of yourself that existed in that future. The husband you were going to be. The home you were going to build together. The inside jokes that would have accumulated over decades. The way she would have looked at you on your wedding day. The kids maybe, or just the life. The quiet Sunday mornings and the arguments about what to have for dinner and the moments of absolute stillness where you're both just existing in the same space and everything feels complete. You're not just missing her, you're mourning an entire life that never got to happen. And brother, I see you. I see that. That is one of the most painful things a human being can carry. Because at least when something real ends, there's a history, there are memories. But when a future ends, when what you lose is something that existed only in hope and imagination, the grief is almost impossible to articulate because there's nothing concrete to point to. How do you explain to someone that you're heartbroken over a life you haven't lived yet? How do you grieve something that was only ever a dream, even if it was the most real dream you ever had? You grieve it the same way you grieve anything real, because it was real. Hope is real. Love is real. The future you imagine was built out of something real, the real person she is, the real connection you had, the real way you felt when you were together. The fact that it hasn't happened yet doesn't make it less worth mourning. I've had loss in my life, significant loss. I've stood at the edge of grief and looked down into it and known that I had to go in, that there was no way around it, that the only path was through. And I won't pretend that's easy. I won't sit here and package it up neatly for you and say, here's the 5 steps, here's the timeline, here's what healing looks like and when you'll feel it. Because that's not honest, and you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort right now. What I will tell you is this: you are not going to feel like this forever. I know it doesn't feel that way right now. I know that when you're in the middle of real heartbreak, the idea of a future where this doesn't hurt seems not just distant, but actually impossible. It like something that might be true for other people, but cannot possibly be true for you. Not with this, not with her. I know that feeling. I have lived in that feeling. But you are not going to feel like this forever. Not because the love goes away, not because she stops mattering, but because you are living, breathing, growing human being. And living and breathing and growing means change, even when you don't want to change, even when staying in the pain feels like the only way to stay close to what you lost. Time does something. Not what people say it does. It doesn't erase, it doesn't fix, it doesn't replace. But it does something. It gives you more of yourself to hold the weight with. It builds capacity. The grief doesn't shrink. You grow around it. And here's what I want you to hold on to right now. In whatever dark hour you're in as you watch this, the fact that you feel this much, the fact that losing her has cracked you open like this, that says something extraordinary about you. Not about your weakness, about your capacity. The depth of your pain is a direct measurement of the depth of your love, and a person who can love that deeply, who can feel that much, who can look at another human being and say, you are my future, you are the one I choose. That person is not broken. That person is here alive in a way that a lot of people spend their whole lives running from. Some people never let themselves love like that. They keep walls up. They keep it casual. They never hand their heart to someone fully because they know on some level that fully handing your heart to someone means fully risking it. And you took that risk. You loved without armor. You let her all the way in. And yeah, that's why it hurts like this. But it's also why it was real. It's also why it mattered. It's also why you will carry something from this love for the rest of your life. Something that will quietly make you a better, deeper, more compassionate human being, even on the days when it only feels like it's making you sadder. Let me talk to you for a minute about what to do with yourself right now. Not in a prescriptive way, not a to-do list, not a routine, not productivity advice dressed up as healing. Just what actually helps. Feel it. Don't perform okayness for other people's comfort. Don't suppress it because you think you should be over it by now, or because being emotional feels like it contradicts some idea you have of who you're supposed to be. Cry if you need to cry. Sit in the feeling. Let it move through you instead of building a wall against it, because walls don't make the feeling disappear. They just make it louder and more pressurized until it finds another way out. Talk to someone. Not to unload your pain onto them, but just to let someone else witness where you are. There is something deeply, fundamentally human about being witnessed, about saying I'm not okay out loud to someone who hears you and doesn't flinch and doesn't immediately try to fix it, who just says, I know, I'm here. If you have that person in your life, go to them. And if you don't, if you're watching this feeling like there's no one who would understand, I want you to know that the reason millions of people make content like this, the reason you're watching this right now, is because there are more people out here in the dark than you know. You are not alone in this, not even close. Be gentle with yourself. This is maybe the hardest one. When you're heartbroken, there's often this brutal inner voice that wants to analyze what went wrong, what you did wrong, what you should have said or not said, what you could have done differently. And maybe some of that reflection is useful eventually at the right time. But right now, what you need is not a trial. What you need is the same compassion you would give your best friend if he came to you broken open like this. Be that friend to yourself. And then I want to say something about hope, because I know the word can feel hollow when you're in the middle of this. I know hope can feel like something people say when they don't know what else to say. But I mean it specifically, not vaguely, not as a platitude. There is a version of your life ahead of you that you cannot see from where you're standing right now. That is not a comforting fiction. That is just literally true. The path that you can see from here, the one that includes her, the one that leads to the future you imagined, that path may be closed. And I'm not going to tell you that's fine or that it doesn't matter. It matters enormously. Closing that path is one of the hardest things that's ever happened to you. But here's what's also true. There are paths you cannot see from here. Around corners you haven't turned yet, in places you haven't been yet, in conversations you haven't had yet with people who don't even exist in your world yet. And one of those paths, I genuinely believe this, not as a performance of optimism, but as something I've come to understand through living. One of those paths holds something for you, holds someone maybe, or holds a version of yourself that you're going to meet through this grief, a version of yourself that has more depth and more compassion and more capacity for real love than the version of you that existed before this broke you open. That version of you, the one on the other side of this, he's worth getting to. Not to replace her, not to pretend this didn't happen, but to find out who you become when you go through the hardest thing and you don't let it make you hard. There's something I've been thinking about a lot, about what it means to be a man who loves deeply in a world that sometimes makes that feel dangerous. We're not always given permission to grieve openly. We're not always given the language for it or the space. There can be this pressure to move on quickly, to toughen up, to redirect the energy into work or the gym or anything that looks more like progress than sitting with sadness. And I want to push back on that, not violently, not with anger, just clearly. The willingness to feel fully, including to grieve fully, is not weakness. It's not something to be embarrassed about. It's something to be respected. It takes more courage to sit with heartbreak than to run from it. It takes more strength to stay open after you've been hurt than to close yourself off and never risk it again. Stay open. That's what I'm asking of you. Not today. Today you get to just feel what you feel. But as you move through this, as the weeks become months and the months begin to accumulate, stay open. Don't let this teach you that love isn't worth the risk. Don't let this be the thing that builds the walls that keep the next great love out. She would not want that for you. The best of you would not want that for you. I want to close with this. You are going to be okay. Not immediately. Not tomorrow. Probably not next week. But you are going to be okay. And more than okay, you are going to carry this, and it is going to become part of the story of who you are. And that story is not a sad story, even though this chapter is hard. The story of a person who loved genuinely and lost and grieved and stayed open and kept going. That's not a tragedy. That's one of the most human stories there is. That's the kind of story that, told honestly, helps other people feel less alone in their own dark chapters. You are in a dark chapter. But you are not the darkness. You are the person moving through it. And there is light ahead, I promise you, even if you can't see it from here. There is warmth ahead. There is connection ahead. There is laughter ahead. Real laughter, the kind that sneaks up on you on a day when you didn't expect to feel light, and for a moment you feel almost guilty about it. And then you realize that this is not betrayal. This is healing. That moment is coming for you. Hold on for it. Hold on for yourself, because you matter, not as someone's partner, not in relation to anyone else, but as yourself. as a specific, unrepeatable one of a kind human being that you are, with your particular way of loving and your particular capacity for feeling and your particular story that no one else in the history of the world has ever lived or ever will live. That person you is worth staying for, worth being gentle with, worth the patience it takes to let yourself heal at the pace healing actually requires. I believe that. I mean it from whatever quiet, sincere place inside me still knows how to mean things. And hey, before I go, if this reached you tonight, if something in these words found you where you are and made you feel a little less alone in what you're carrying, do me a favor. Hit that like button, not for me, for the next person who finds this on a night when they need it, for the next person sitting in the dark who needs to know someone else has been there too. Subscribe so when the next hard conversation comes, you're here for it. And leave a comment. Tell me where you are. Tell me what you're carrying. Tell me your name. Because you are not invisible. You are not alone. And every person in that comment section going through something hard, you are seen by each other, even if only through a screen, even at 2 a.m. Take care of yourselves out there. Be kind to yourselves. And remember, it's still a good life. Gives a small, quiet nod and steps back.